Hey, good evening. This is Gail Wooten from United Free Will Baptist, West Plains, Missouri. Just want to share some words to try to encourage you and help you tonight. I'd like to talk to you about, Lord, help our faith, our trust, and our hope to be in you and built on your word in this time that we're going through in this world. And I thought about the old patriarchs of old, and their trust and all their faith was in God and his word. And the one we always think about, Job. A lot of people had ideas, had a lot of judgment, had a lot of criticism. But poor old Job was caught in the middle of this thing. He had no idea what was going on. He didn't have the answers, though others did. But through it all, Job made this statement in chapter 13, verse 15. He said, "Though God slay me, yet will I trust him." And if you look at all the old patriarchs of old, and King David, a man after God's own heart, David's seen a lot of things in his lifetime, and he witnessed a lot of things. And he said this in Psalms 56, 3 and 4. He said, "What time I'm afraid, I'll trust in thee." He said, "In God I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do unto me." You read the book of Daniel, and Daniel and his buddies went through some things, and what got them through what they went through, when he went in the lion's den, the king told him, he said, "The God you continually serve will deliver you." And they said when they brought Daniel out of the lion's den, what got Daniel through was Daniel believed in his God. He made it through that. 3 Hebrew boys went through a fiery furnace trial. Verse 28 said they trusted in God. Their trust was in God, not the circumstances, situations around them. And God was always there to deliver them. The same for Job, same for Abraham, same for Israel, David, Ruth, or even Esther, where God's name's not even mentioned. But God is always working powerful for his people. Their trust was in God, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. And he's very much alive today. The last time I looked and last time I read this book, God's still in charge. He's still in control over everything, and he's got everything in the palm of his hands, so we don't have to worry about anything. And I like these people I don't like to see people going through things. I don't like to see people hurting. I don't like to see the fear on them and the wonder and amazement of what they're going to do. But what they need to do and realize is that God has got this. Whether we understand it or not, there's nothing too hard for him to do. And if you think this is bad, and this pandemic or whatever you want to call it, you think this is bad, I read in this book one of these days where what's going on right now is minute to what's coming to planet Earth someday. Because someday God's wrath is going to be poured out upon this earth. They're going to open those seals. They're going to sound those trumpets. And he's going to pour those vials out. And what we're facing right now today, as serious as it is, it will be minor on that day. And that event will happen. But the best thing is, we're not going to be here to witness it. We're going to be at home at the banquet with him. So that's something you got to know, that we're going there. And all through life it's that. And that's what we build our life upon, as our pastor said Sunday. We build our life upon Christ, the solid rock. As the old song said, "On Christ, the solid rock I stand. Everything else is sinking sand." Then the other day I was reading the book of Habakkuk. And you can read Habakkuk. It won't take you long. It's 3 small chapters. But any of these Old Testament books is like opening the newspaper this morning, especially Habakkuk. Habakkuk started out, he was complaining, not that anybody complains today, and he talked about the burden. He said, "Lord, how long shall I cry, and you'll not hear? Even I cry to thee of violence, and you'll not save. Why dost thou not shew me iniquity, and cause me to hold grievances? For the spoiling and violence are before me, that there rise up strife and contention." Verse 4 of chapter 1, "Therefore the law is slack, judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth." So he's complaining. Nothing happening. Chapter 2, God told him, he said, "You write this down because it will happen." But he said in verse 4, he said that verse 3, he said, "The vision's yet for an appointed time, but the end shall speak it, and lie not. Till tarry, wait for it, because it shall surely come and not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up in him is not upright, but the just shall live by faith." And that's what you and I live by, is our faith, not our feelings, not the situations, not the circumstances. But the best part of Habakkuk comes down to chapter 3. And this is his prayer in verse 2. He said, "O Lord, I have heard your speech and was afraid. O Lord, revive your work in the midst of the year. In the midst of the years make known. In the wrath remember mercy. Then he gets a view of the majesty of God, his glory coming. He sees what God did in the past for his people. The mountains tremble. You read it for yourself, chapter 3. And I'm going to tell you, God spoke and Habakkuk's voice trembled. And here's how he finished the book out. In all the circumstances, when he finally figured out the majesty of God. In verse 17 of chapter 3, verse 17. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall the fruit be in the vines, and the labor of the olive shall fail, the field shall yield no meat, and the flock shall be cut off from the fold, there shall be no herd in the stalls. Yet will I rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. He said, the Lord God is my strength. He maketh my feet like hinds' feet. He will make me to walk upon my high places, the chief instruments on my stringed instruments. So Habakkuk's going to rejoice in the Lord, focus on him. And that's what you and I need to do right now. We've got our focus on the wrong thing. We listen to every voice, but he still speaks. And what you need to do is get your focus back on God, not the situations and circumstances of our world today, even though it's concerning. But I'll challenge you to do this. Find you a place somewhere and get along with God. Turn your cell phone off. Turn the TV off. You don't even have to say anything. Just find you a place to get all along with God and him alone in you. And when you do, you find that place with God and get in his presence, you'll find the peace you need, the calm you need, the grace and mercy you need. You'll find it. You remember how depressed Elijah was until he got all along with God and he's ready to go back to work again. You ever think about Moses and what he went through? But he went back up to the mountain again. He got renewed, he got restored, he got revived, and he's ready to continue on the journey again. David one time lost everything, and they spake of stoning him. But David encouraged himself in the Lord, and he got it all back. John on the Isle of Patmos, they left him out on that old barren island. But when Jesus showed up, things changed. And I just challenge you to find you a place, just you and God. Be sincere about it. And when you get in his presence, your attitude will change. And you'll have a peace that you can't understand. And you'll realize how much he loves you, how much he cares for you, and he's in control of this and everything else in this world. And oh yeah, you can always be excited. He is coming back to get us, so just be ready for that. Thank y'all for listening.